Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wind Down Wednesday, episode 32. My new single, Open Your Heart, is now available. It's on all streaming platforms, so Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all of those. And you can also download it from my website if you'd like to directly. Tonight, we are going to talk about decluttering and renovating our energetic house. And I'm excited about this topic. I'm a little bit nervous about this topic, but that tells me that it's an important topic to discuss. So decluttering is a pretty popular term. You hear that a lot right now, ever since Marie Kondo's book about tidying up came out. They even made a show about it on Netflix. And then we're also at the beginning of the year, and I feel like a lot of people feel that urge to kind of declutter. We're getting close, hopefully. Well, many of you are not very close to spring, but we're getting there. And so spring cleaning comes up. So decluttering, I see a lot of people right now who are talking about decluttering their physical space. And I've been dealing with some things emotionally and energetically, and it made me want to talk about decluttering our emotional space, our energetic space, our energetic fields, because that is just as important as decluttering the physical space, and they're very much related. So the physical space is kind of a reflection of our internal space and vice versa. So there's a lot of different ways that we can declutter our energetic field. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between decluttering and full-on renovation, because full-on renovation is kind of what I've been going through, and that's what got me thinking about this topic. But I want to talk a little bit about decluttering because we're going to do a little bit of both tonight in our meditation. So to me, decluttering is, there's levels of decluttering. So there's the surface level of, oh, I picked this up this week and I don't really want this and I'm just gonna, And that's why we have a regular practice. That's why we have a regular meditation practice. That's why we have a regular sound practice. That's why we practice things like conscious movement and yoga. That's why we go to see an energy worker, or we get something like Reiki or BioTouch that helps us do this kind of frequent decluttering that keeps us moving, that keeps us in flow. So our goal is to be in flow all the time. And as we declutter, if we can keep from picking things up on a daily basis, then that frees up our attention and our space to kind of get to a deeper level. And eventually we keep excavating and decluttering these deep levels. And then we get to the renovation level. And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, but I want to finish talking about one more process that I like to use for decluttering, and that is a process that I wrote about in my book, Spiritual Integration, and it is called bone cleaning. And the meditation on bone cleaning has not been released yet on my website, so we're going to do a little bone cleaning meditation tonight, and then eventually we'll have the full meditation for bone cleaning. It's just something that kind of keeps getting pushed down to the bottom of my list as things come up for me to do. So bone cleaning allows us to literally, figuratively clean our bones, literally, energetically clean our bones. And as we clean our bones, that's one way of decluttering the energetic field within the body. And then it also stirs up the energy of our back body and brings more to the surface. So if you've ever done any decluttering in your house, maybe you have a pile of papers or something and you're going through the pile of papers, and then underneath the pile of papers is this one paper you'd been looking for like 10 years and you thought you lost it, but hey, you had to get through all this other stuff to find that one paper. So that's kind of how the back body works. The back body is all the stuff that we shove behind us. So we have this surface level of decluttering, and then we have sort of the deeper stuff, or the stuff that we haven't been able to look at, that maybe we didn't have the tools to deal with. And that's where bone cleaning comes in. So bone cleaning not only cleans and declutters, but it also kind of stirs up some new things that you can then look at and then clean and declutter. So we're going to do a short bone cleaning exercise tonight, and then we're going to go into a little bit, we're going to dip our toe in the water a little bit on full-on renovation. And you'll have to excuse me, I'm going to stick with this kind of decluttering renovation metaphor tonight. I love to watch house renovation shows, so I probably know more about it than I should have for somebody who doesn't actually do any real renovation. But I think it's a good concrete metaphor for something that we're talking about that's really abstract, that's maybe hard to wrap your mind around. So just bear with me as I get through these metaphors here, because I'm hoping it will make this easier to understand and easier to grasp. And maybe less scary too, because this full-on renovation is a scary thing. So what I'm talking about when I'm talking about energetic or emotional renovation is making changes to our core beliefs. And our core beliefs are our most central ideas about ourselves. They're basically the lens through which we view everything that happens to us, the way people treat us, the events that happen to us in our lives. And where do these core beliefs come from? I think it's a variety of places. It definitely comes from our family of origin, and I'm going to come back to that because that one's really important. But it also comes from society at large, the society that we're living in. It comes from our peers, especially as we're in that really vulnerable adolescent phase. I think a lot of our core beliefs are kind of shaped in that period of our lives when we're first differentiating ourselves away from our family and trying to kind of create our own identity, but we end up sort of looking to our peers to form our beliefs. But the family of origin is really important. And what is that term? Just means the family that you grew up in. And I want to be very clear here that when we're talking about getting your beliefs from your family of origin, this is not a blame game. This is not like, oh, my parents believe this and now I believe it. That's true. But why did your parents believe it? Well, they believed it because their parents believed it. And why did their parents believe it? Because their parents believed it. So what we're really talking about here is something that we dealt with way back at the beginning of these Wind Down Wednesdays. We did an episode about healing ancestral trauma. So this is part of that ancestral trauma. When we have a core belief that's based in fear, which pretty much every one of us still does, I'm going to get into that. That core belief, that fear-based core belief, that seems like it's part of who we are, came from this generational trauma. Somebody back in our line started believing this core belief. Maybe it was the very first upright human who had these higher kind of cortex functions that were able to get really complicated in their relationship with themselves and others. And it just cascaded down to us. So how do we change these core beliefs? This is more like a huge renovation than it is like a decluttering. So my example that I'm going to use from construction or renovation is taking out a wall. So if you've ever done this in your own home or watched one of those house shows, a lot of times people decide they want to open up a wall. I'm going to open up the wall between my kitchen and my living room, for example. And it sounds easy enough, right? Oh, I'm just going to knock the wall out. But you knock the wall out and then there's a bunch of mold in the wall and you have to deal with that. And then it turns out that it was a load-bearing wall. It was supporting the weight of the entire roof of your house. So you can't just take this wall out. You have to put a giant beam in there. But before you can even put the giant beam in there, you have to put all these bracing 2x4s up to hold up the structure so that you can even take everything out in order to put the beam in. So there's huge structural changes that go into these large renovations. And that's kind of what it's like when you're changing a core belief. This is something that we believe so deeply within ourselves that it feels like part of who we are. So changing it is like making a major renovation. It's like making a major change to the house. And if you've ever been through a renovation or you've ever watched one of those shows, it's not a smooth process a lot of times. There's a lot of up and downs. There's hidden surprises behind the walls that you didn't know about. There's things that happen that make the process take longer than you think it should. And then there's the absolute just chaos and destruction of living in a construction zone, of living with all this dust and all this debris and the stuff that gets stirred up when you do a renovation. And all of that is true energetically, pretty much literally. Again, it's figuratively, but when we make a structural change to a core belief, it's like we're taking out a wall in ourselves. And one of the things that sometimes happens if you watch those house shows is that someone might walk into the space and say, oh, this is too open. This is a lot more open than I was thinking. There's actually some fear that comes up because this space is new, it's different, and it feels like it's not our space anymore. So I want to give a couple of examples. And one of the things that I feel like I've talked about a lot on the show, and it's something that I've been dealing with, and I feel like my structure is sound now in coming out of scarcity thinking and into abundance thinking. And that doesn't mean that my journey is over. That doesn't mean that I'm not still decluttering things as they come up and I recognize, oh, that's a form of scarcity thinking. Oh, that's a form of scarcity thinking. But overall, I've done the renovation and I'm living in my new space. But underneath that is another core belief that I've been dealing with. And I think maybe not this specific belief, but some version of it is held by just about every one of us in some way. And so in general, this is a belief about your value. So I'm not blank enough, or I need to be blank to be worthy of love. And so my example, and I've talked about this before, but this has really been coming up for me. It's something that I've been trying to declutter this my entire life, but I feel like right now I'm doing the renovation work and I'm in kind of a messy phase of it. So my value belief is that I am not worthy to be loved unless I am thin. And I feel like that's a very common belief that many women hold. And for men, it might be a different form of that when we're talking about body image or body shame. For men, it might be, I need to be strong or I need to be big. For women, it tends to be, I need to be small. So on the surface of it, that is an absurd idea. Like if you get into your observer self and you just look at that objectively, why would your size have anything to do with your worth as a person? It doesn't even make any sense. But it's a core belief that many of us hold. And again, that specific belief might not be yours, but there's probably something that you can fill in that blank. And I'm going to say it again. I'm not blank enough, or I need to be blank to be worthy of love. So it could be, I'm not funny enough to be loved. I'm not smart enough to be loved. I'm not a good parent enough to be loved. Or if I was a better parent, I would be more worthy of love. If I was a better person, if I was more successful, if I had more money, you could fill anything into that blank. But I'm willing to bet that 99% of us struggle with a belief about our value. And it's an inherent belief that so many of us have that in some way we're not worthy of being loved, that we're not valuable just as we are, that there are conditions on our value, that there are conditions on how lovable we are. And that's probably the core belief, perhaps at the bottom of all of these other beliefs, at the bottom, underneath scarcity thinking, underneath all these other kind of core beliefs, is this feeling that we're not valuable enough. And it's a tough one. It's a tough one to really look at. It's an even tougher one to change. I'm getting kind of hot right now, so I know talking about it is even making me uncomfortable. And it's not admitting it to me. It's not the vulnerability of it. It's just sitting with that discomfort of recognizing that somewhere inside me, I still, after all the work I've done, after all the years that I've put into the spiritual practice, I've still got this core belief that I'm not valuable enough, that I'm not worthy unless blank, unless I'm thin enough, unless I'm beautiful enough, whatever goes in that blank for you. And the process that I've been in, I was really struggling this last week. I was talking to a friend about it, and thinking about it in terms of construction actually really helped me. And that's why I decided to bring this metaphor in tonight. So the process that I'm in right now, I'm going to use that knocking out a wall again. And so I feel like I knocked my wall out when it came to that core belief. I exposed that dirty underbelly, the mold and the crap that's under that thinking, that the feelings that are under that kind of objectively absurd thought about value. And I put up my little bracing 2x4s, and I've even installed my structural beam, this giant new beam. So the space looks more open. My beam is there. I have the support to step out of that belief. I have the tools I need to support myself in letting that core belief go. But then I got to the step in the renovation where I looked at my space and it didn't look like my space anymore. This living room doesn't look like my living room. This piece inside of me doesn't look like the piece inside of me. And so so the idea of taking down those support structures that are holding up this new beam and being completely open and letting go of that core belief that my value is somehow tied to how I look is extremely scary, but it's the next step in my renovation. I can't live in a house that has 2x4s supporting a beam out of fear that the beam's going to fall and my whole ceiling is going to collapse in, or somebody's going to walk in my house and not like the renovations that I did, or I'm going to have regrets about this whole process and think that, somehow I did something wrong. I know that on the other side of this is that belief that we all have value, no matter what, no matter who we are, no matter what we look like, no matter how we grew up, no matter how we've been treated in our lives, we have inherent value. And that's what this spiritual practice is about. It's about connecting to that love, to that unconditional love that we all deserve. And so that's what we're going to meditate on tonight. And I appreciate you sitting with me in this discomfort, in this vulnerability, because if I can do this, you can do this. We can do this together. We can step out of that belief that in some way we're not valuable enough for whatever reason. That core belief that came from our family, that came from the family before that family, and that family before that family. This lie that we've been telling ourselves for generations, that we still tell each other, the way that we treat each other, especially as women sometimes, we're so hard on each other and we're so judgmental of each other. And that's a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. When we're judgmental of someone else, that's really a reflection of that darkness inside of us, of that fear inside of us, of that core belief inside of us that we're not enough in some way. And I see in society now, and I see in the other people that are doing this work, that people are letting this go, that it's time to step out of this as a society. All the tumult, I can't talk, all the chaos, I'll just use that word, in our society right now, all of the polarization is all leading up to this acknowledgement that we are worthy, that we are deserving of love, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter how we're feeling on a given day, no matter how we look, no matter how much money we make, no matter where we live, no matter how our brains work, whether we think one way or we think a different way, we are all inherently worthy of love. Okay, that was a tough one. And I noticed at the beginning I kept flubbing my words, and I realized now that I was really nervous about getting all this out. And you can hear my throat's a little like, because it's a scary thing to talk about. So, as we get through renovation, how do we do this? What do we do? Because you can see from my reaction, it's still scary. I've been doing this for a long time. I help other people do this, but it's still a scary thing. So we use our tools. Just like in construction, you don't go into a major renovation site with just a hammer. You're never going to get anything done, right? You need a crowbar. You need a whole bunch of tools. Sometimes you need heavy machinery. You need a jackhammer if you're going to get through some concrete or something like that. So we use our tools. We use our meditation. We reach out and ask for help when we need it. We talk to a friend. We talk to a coach or a mental health professional. We reach out and get energy work or BioTouch or Reiki. And we use our sound. My beautiful bowl. We're going to use some sound tonight. So let's get into the meditation. We're going to start with some bone cleaning, and you don't need to know what that process is. I'm going to guide you through that. And then again, we're just going to dip our toe in this idea of renovation. We're going to get to a place, we're just going to look tonight. If you're already working with a core belief, if you're already in this process, then just notice where you are in the renovation, because it helped me. It helped me to see, look at all this work I've done. I've got my support beam in place. I just have to have the courage to take down those 2x4s and live in a new way and live in a new space and let go of that belief finally, because I don't need it anymore. It's not serving me. It never served me, but I have the tools now to let it go. So maybe your process tonight will just be recognizing a core belief. And again, you can use that phrase that I said. I'm going to say it one more time. So this is a belief about your value. I need to be blank to be worthy of love, or I am not blank enough to be worthy of love, whatever comes to you there. So maybe you'll just be looking at a core belief. Maybe you'll be looking at where you are in the renovation. Maybe you'll be sitting in some gratitude for how much progress you've made, even if it still feels like you're in that chaos and a little bit of that destruction and your house doesn't look quite right. Maybe you're on the other side of it, but still in fear because it looks like such a different space. And any one of those places is perfectly okay to be. So let's meditate together. Get nice and comfortable. As usual, I encourage you to sit up if possible, just to help you stay awake, but whatever position is comfortable for you is fine. Be extra gentle with yourself tonight. This is hard work, as you saw from me talking about it. If you get emotional, that's okay. Let it come up. Let yourself cry if you need to. Let yourself cough and do a little of that lion's breath if you need to, that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And again, as I said a few weeks ago, if you need to get up, if you need to move around, if you need to take a break, that's completely fine. Do this at your own pace. So allowing the top of the head, that crown chakra, to open gently. And tonight, instead of traveling down through the body in segments, we're going to do that as part of our bone cleaning. Just invite that unconditional love, that inherent value, that beautiful light of the love of Spirit, Source, God, the universe, whatever word you like to use. Invite that golden light to come into your space. Allow yourself to open to that idea that you are inherently valuable and lovable, and invite that unconditional love in. And then we're going to start tonight at the sacrum, the tailbone. Just first bring your awareness to that big bone at the bottom of your back. It's shaped like a triangle. Sometimes I like to think about bone cleaning like I'm at the dentist. So you have different tools to use here. You can use a brush. If you're just gently removing some debris, you might have to get a pick out. You might have to get something to kind of scrape if the debris, energetically speaking, is kind of hard, and your intuition will tell you what to do here. And sometimes you might have to get a power tool out, and that's appropriate for most bones. I will tell you the ones that we need to be more gentle with. So the sacrum is a place where we store a lot of gunk. A lot of decluttering can be done at the sacrum. So send your awareness to the inside of your sacrum. So this is the side of the bone that's actually facing the front of your body, inside your back. And to start with, just imagine a brush. We're going to start with something pretty simple. And just imagine that you're brushing the inside of your sacrum. And you can see I'm doing that movement with my hand. You can do that if you like. If it helps you visualize, it's not necessary. But sometimes, especially as you're starting, this can be helpful to kind of encourage the energy to start moving. So you've brushed a little bit away. Maybe you're like, oh, yeah, that's not enough for this area. So you can get out your pick or your scraper. And just like they do when they're scraping plaque off at the dentist, you're just scraping the inside of that bone. And after we scrape a bone, after we brush a bone, after we clean a bone in whatever way we're cleaning, then just like at the dentist, we want to polish that bone. So we don't want to leave any nicks. We don't want to leave any little miniature cuts in our bone here. So we polish the bone. You can imagine something like they use at the dentist or a polishing cloth, or you can just use light and allow the light to polish that bone once you're done cleaning it. And as usual, you can come back to this meditation as many times as you like. So if you feel like you're not done with the sacrum, that's okay. You don't have to do all of this at once, because remember that anything that you stir up here, you will need to deal with. You will need to use your tools to continue to declutter this, whether you come back to bone cleaning, you do some other meditation or some sound practice, some chanting, or you reach out for some energetic work. This is the beginning of a process. So from the sacrum, we're moving into the femurs. Those are the big bones in your thigh. And for the femurs, I usually like to stick with a brush. And for most of bone cleaning, I like to imagine that I'm cleaning the inside of the bone rather than the outside. So you can just take your brush and brush down those big thigh bones, the femurs, in each side, each leg, just a few times. Again, this is just an introductory meditation tonight. You can come back to this. So we're just doing some introductory spring cleaning or decluttering here. And after you're done brushing the femurs, then send some polishing into there, send some light. You can imagine a polishing cloth or one of those ultrasonic polishers they use at the dentist, whatever imagery works for you. I don't particularly like the dentist, but the dental imagery works well for me when I'm cleaning bones. And then just very gently at the kneecap, your patella, do a little brushing here. This is a place you can use a gentle picking, but most of the time a nice stiff brush works. And both sides again of the patella. And then send your polishing, your light in whatever way works for you. And moving down into the bones of the lower legs, the tibia is the big shin bone and the fibula is the smaller bone on the side. So just imagine that you're brushing, and you might use a smaller brush for a smaller bone, but it doesn't really matter. This is intention as usual in energy work. So just use the intention of brushing down those lower leg bones and then polish. And you'll find here that you get into a little bit of a rhythm. So now we're going to do the bones of the ankle and the feet together. And there's a lot of little bones in the feet. It's not important that you know the names of them, but get a nice stiff brush here, because the feet, a lot of stuff gets stuck in the feet. So you can imagine there's a lot of little crevices in those bones there. So you're maybe kind of tapping at those crevices, you're brushing away at those crevices, you're brushing each toe bone. And then again, polish the feet. I love to send light to the feet and the hands especially. And the way you do that is just with intention. Just, you can hold your hands like I do. This is kind of how we use our hands in Reiki, but that's not important. Just use intention and send light into your feet. So now we're going to come to the difficult bones that tend to collect the most in the upper body. So in the lower body, it's the sacrum, kind of the hip joint, which is at the top of the femur. So in the upper body, it's the sternum, the breastbone, and the shoulder blades. That's where a lot of our gunk collects, and especially the heart-related stuff. So in the sternum, you can use a pick. You want to work slowly and gently. You can stick with a brush here. So this is the breastbone in the center of your chest, but you're imagining that you're working on the inside of this bone, the side that's the closest to your organs. And again, just brush, pick, whatever works for you here. We're not going to do too much work here. And then get your little polishing cloth. I do like to polish the sternum. It's a really big bone, and it tends to get so much gunk there that there's little crevices, and we just want to really polish that up after we stir anything, after we declutter any gunk or plaque off that bone. And then we're going to go to the shoulder blades, the scapula, and that's those big flat triangular bones that are kind of behind the front of your shoulders and the upper back. And there is so much yuck that collects on these. So this is where sometimes I might get out some sort of an industrial tool. I might get a big pick. I kind of like the hand scraping. I actually like that at the dentist too. It seems like it's more satisfying to me, but you can use something, you can imagine more of a power tool, but you're really going to scrape the inside of the scapula. And you want to do this one at a time. Anytime there's two, it's just easier to do it one at a time. You can scrape both bones and then kind of polish them together, but you want to scrape them at the one at a time so you're really focused. And then after I scrape, I like to brush a little bit. So I'm going to brush that bone, and then I am going to polish that bone before we move on. So go ahead and get your little cloth out or whatever you're using and send some light. And then do the same thing on the other scapula. Scraping the inside of that bone. Brushing that bone. And this is something you can repeat often. The more often you repeat this, the less gunk, just like getting your teeth cleaned, you want to go twice a year. So if you do this monthly or so, it's more of a maintenance practice and less of a, oh, there's so much stuff here to get rid of. Why did I wait so long? So you can include this as one of your maintenance tools, as one of the tools you use while you're decluttering, while you're renovating. And then polish up this bone, send some light to this bone. And then we're going to come into the rib cage. And here I like to just brush around each rib, just once or twice here. Just imagining, you don't have to know how many ribs there are, exactly where they are, just used intention. And then I like to use light here. You can also use a polishing cloth, but they're kind of smaller bones. And then we're going to do the rest of the spine. So we started at the sacrum, but now we're going to work our way actually from the chest down, because the neck, the cervical spine, is another place that collects a lot of goo. So starting from the breastbone straight back into your back, just start brushing down the spine. And if you know much about the spine, there's little vertebral bodies. You don't have to worry too much about those. If there's a specific area that calls your attention, you can kind of get in there and brush it. You can brush between the vertebrae a little bit where the disc space is. Just clean that up energetically. And then I like to use a polisher here, polishing the spine. And before we go on to the neck, we're going to do the arms just quickly. Just like the femur, just like that big bone in the thigh, you're just going to brush down the humerus, the large bone in the upper arm. And these are bones that I usually stick with a brush, but you can use whatever you want here. Do a little polishing. Same thing in the elbow. And then the radius and ulna, the two bones of the forearms. Just brush along those. And I am kind of doing these at the same time just to save time. They're smaller bones. They don't hold as much. They do hold some gunk, but not anything like some of the larger bones. And polishing the forearms here. and then wrists and hands. So in the hands, I never use a pick. You can use a brush lightly in the hands. And then my favorite thing to do is use light, because in Reiki, when we channel energy, the light comes through our hands. Our hands, whether you've been Reiki attuned or not, your hands are able to transmit that unconditional love, that spirit energy. So I like to picture a UV light here shining on my hands, all around my hands, just disinfecting my hands, and then brushing away any goo here, kind of polishing the hands up a little bit, and then just spending a few seconds imagining light, inviting that unconditional love, that golden light of the divine to come directly into the hands. And then coming to the upper part of the spine, from the breastbone to the neck here, the cervical spine. This is a really delicate area, but it also holds a lot of gunk. So you can actually get pretty, I was going to say aggressive, that's not the right word. You can get enthusiastic with your cleaning here. I like to stick with a brush. This is a delicate area, but you can get a nice stiff brush and really brush the bones. Another way to visualize this is like you're on an archaeological dig. So you're being very gentle with these bones that you uncover, but you're still cleaning them. You're getting a nice stiff brush and cleaning all the dirt off, so you can really declutter this space so you can see the bone underneath, so it's shiny and polished. And then polishing that cervical spine, the neck. So the jawbone is another place that we tend to collect a lot of gunk, and you can get a pick here if you want, doing the inside of the jaw here. You can stick with a brush, whatever feels right, and polishing that, sending light there. And then for the skull, we're sticking with light. We don't need a brush here. I don't think a brush is going to hurt, but my intuition always tells me. So you can put your hands on your head if you like, or just send the intention of sending light into your skull. And you can use a polishing cloth here, imagining yourself polishing the inside of your skull, cleaning that bone. And then take a nice deep breath, let it out with a sigh. You can use that ha breath if you'd like. And notice how you feel here. We went through that fairly quickly. This is a practice you can use whenever you feel like you need some internal decluttering. Whenever you feel like you're holding on to some emotional stuff, it's in the bones somewhere there most of the time. So even if you don't know where it is, if you can't identify what it is that's bothering you, you can do a full bone cleaning, and a lot of times that will help. And you'll also declutter a bunch of that little stuff that we pick up from day to day, the little annoyances and irritants. So take a nice deep breath. Let it out with that audible ha. We're going to move on to the second part of the meditation. I'm going to lead you into this part, and then I'm going to use some toning and some sound to help support this part of the meditation. So allow yourself to think about one of your fear-based core beliefs. Maybe it's the belief that your value is conditional on something. Maybe it's a scarcity belief that there's not enough of something. Maybe it's just the feeling that you are not worthy of love in some way, that you're unlovable in some way. Let yourself get a glimpse of this, and if you're already working with one, really look at it. And then from here, allow your intuition to guide you. Maybe you're just looking at this belief today. Maybe you're thinking about where it came from, how long it's been with you, whether you're ready to do some renovation to change it. Maybe you're in the planning stages. You're drawing out some blueprints to knock down that wall, imagining what it would feel like if you let go of that core belief, and allowing that fear might come up with that process. Or maybe you're deep in the midst of a renovation and it looks like a bomb went off and you feel like you're never going to get through to the other side of this. So allow yourself to sit in that chaos and reconnect with your original plan. Reconnect with the relief that will come when you let go of that core belief that's no longer serving you, that's never served you. And maybe you're near the end of the process, but you're just being held back. And let yourself sit there. Wherever you are, let your intuition guide you here. Look at this belief and sit with whatever emotion comes up for you here. Let the vibration of this sound soothe you wherever you are in this practice. Whatever emotions are coming up for you. Maybe you're not even ready to look at a core belief yet, and that's okay. Just let yourself absorb the sound. Let yourself breathe and sit in this practice. Let yourself reap the benefits of that bone cleaning. Allow yourself to feel your value, to feel your worth, to recognize that there are no conditions on the love that's available to you. That this divine, unconditional love is yours. It's yours to receive, it's yours to give. It's your birthright to be loved. to share love. Let yourself be loved. You are loved. You are loved. Wherever you are in your thoughts, in your exploration, know that it's okay. Know that you are safe. Know that you are supported. Know that you are loved. Know that you have value. And know that you are strong enough to renovate your energetic house, to declutter your energetic house, to enjoy the new space of your energetic house. Allow yourself to come into your heart center for a few moments. You can place your hands over your heart if you'd like. And affirm with me, I am fully present in my physical body. I am open to receiving love in this physical body. I recognize my value in this physical body. If you'd like, you can gently allow that crown chakra at the top of your head to close or leave it open with the intention that it is for your highest good and your highest good alone. Allow that feeling of value, of unconditional love to flow through the top of your head. Let it come into your face, your jaw, your neck and throat. Allow this healing light and love to flow into your chest and upper back, into your shoulders, arms, wrists, and hands. Let this beautiful golden light flow down into the rest of your torso, your belly, your low back, your pelvis. Allow this love and light to flow into your thighs, your knees, to your lower legs, ankles, and feet. You can wiggle your toes a little bit. Flex your hands, roll your wrists, move your head and neck around a little bit. Let yourself come fully back into this space, into your energetic space. And with the intention that anything we've stirred up tonight, anything we've decluttered, will be released into the universe for the highest good. Letting go of anything we're ready to let go of tonight, anything that's been holding us back that we're ready to release. and joining with me, if you can. We're going to end this meditation with a long sut and a short nam just once. This is truth and identity. The truth of your identity is that you are beautiful, you are valuable, and you are loved just as you are in this moment and all moments to come. As you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Thank you for sticking with me. I know this was a long episode. I hope you'll come back to this and revisit the bone cleaning and revisit the idea of renovating your space, of letting go of your belief that you are not enough in whatever way that manifests. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Know your value, see your worth, and be open to receiving the love that is your birthright. Have a wonderful rest of your night, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesday.